The old two-story house in the Boston suburbs still held an air of elegance, like an aging debutante refusing to fade. Its whitewashed walls gleamed under the morning sun, its polished windows caught the light, and ivy clung to one side like memories too stubborn to let go. It might remind you of quiet Sundays in the 1970s, Glenn Miller on the radio, kids chasing fireflies, the scent of meatloaf drifting from the kitchen. But inside, the charm unraveled. The floorboards creaked like weary bones. Soot stains lingered near the fireplace, defiant against every scrub. The banister bore grooves from too many nights of clenched hands. This wasn't just a home. It was a keeper of secrets. Rachel Carter stood in the entrance hall, barefoot, arms crossed, lips pressed tight. The smell of aged pine and polished brass should have felt like home, should have brought back afternoons with her mother, sipping tea and laughing over stories of her youth. Instead, it felt like a stage, her life scripted by someone else's hand. Footsteps from upstairs made her flinch. "Lila," she called, forcing warmth into her voice. "Breakfast time, sweetheart." In the kitchen, she poured orange juice with steady hands. On the surface, all was calm. Sunlight slanting through the window, the table neatly set, a plate of toast and berries arranged just so. But beneath, anger coiled like smoke. Her daughter, Lila, bounded in, eyes bright with wonder. "Mommy, the clouds look like jellyfish today," she giggled, pressing her face to the glass. Rachel smiled, but her jaw ached from clenching. "They do. Hurry now, Daddy has an early meeting." As if summoned, Daniel Carter appeared. Crisp shirt, pressed slacks, coffee in hand. Always the polished image of a devoted husband. "Big client this weekend," he said, smoothing Lila's hair without looking at her. "Could change everything. If it goes well, maybe Disney, huh?" He glanced at Rachel, just a flicker, and she caught it. Not guilt, not fear. Calculation. He was always calculating. "I'll bring you something special, princess." He winked at Lila. Rachel stiffened. Princess. He used to call her my queen, back when lies tasted like love. She watched him sip his coffee like the world was right, like the past 3 months hadn't been filled with late-night calls he took outside, changed passwords, and dodged glances. It started before her mother's death, or maybe it was always there, hidden beneath his charm. "How's the museum project?" he asked, all casual. "Still chasing dreams?" Rachel's fingers tightened on the juice glass. "It's not a dream. It's my work. The Oliver exhibition opens next month, Female Artists of the 20th Century. Important work. Not that you'd care." He smirked. "Don't be so sensitive." Sensitive. That word again. She wanted to hurl the glass at the sink just to hear it shatter. "And Mother's coming this weekend," he added, like tossing a match into dry grass. "Of course. Margaret Carter. Perfect hair, perfect pearls, perfect disdain for the daughter-in-law who'd never measure up." Rachel didn't reply. She nodded, stared out the window, her rage a rising tide. Outside, Lila twirled on the deck, sunlight catching her curls. Rachel turned to her husband. "Don't let her hurt Lila. She's her grandmother, Rachel. She's your mother. And you've always let her do whatever she wants. Not this time." Daniel stood. "You're being dramatic." Rachel's smile was cold, brittle, sharp. "No. I'm finally awake." Deep inside, something ignited. Not fear. Not sorrow. It was the spark of a fight. Morning came heavy. Rachel stared at the half-empty coffee mug on the table, its contents cold and forgotten. Sunlight filtered through the blinds in pale streaks. Lila sat at the table's end, coloring quietly. Too quietly. Daniel had left for his big meeting an hour ago, his cologne lingering like an unwelcome guest. But today felt wrong. He hadn't kissed her goodbye. He always did, even if it was perfunctory. Today? Just a curt "I'll call later," and the screech of tires as he sped off, like something was chasing him. Rachel tapped the mug's rim. On the sideboard, her mother's photo watched her, smiling, composed, elegant. 3 months since her death, and the grief still cut like glass. Rachel could almost hear her mother's voice, recounting tales of the 1960s, when she raised Rachel alone after her father left. "You're enough, Rachel," she'd say, her hands busy with knitting needles. "But don't forget to love wisely." Lila stood suddenly, tiptoeing to the window. "What is it, sweetheart?" "Nothing," Lila mumbled, staring outside. Rachel joined her. The driveway was empty, the yard still. But Lila's tense shoulders set Rachel on edge. "What do you see?" "Thought someone was behind the tree. Probably a bird." Rachel frowned. "Sleep okay last night?" Lila nodded slowly, then hesitated. "Mommy, I heard Daddy on the phone. In his study. He said it was work, but he was talking to Grandma." Rachel knelt. "What did you hear?" Lila looked down, picking at her dress. "He said, it has to look like an accident." Rachel blinked. "What?" "That's what he said," Lila insisted, her voice small but steady. "He was looking at house drawings too. Big papers. I saw escape route and timing written on them." Rachel's heart pounded. Maybe Lila misheard. Maybe it was nothing. Or maybe, just maybe, it was everything. "When was this, Lila?" "Last night. After bedtime. I couldn't sleep." Rachel stood, her mind racing. She wanted to dismiss it, but Lila's clarity gnawed at her. That afternoon, the landline rang. Rachel almost ignored it, but the screen flashed. Margaret Carter. She exhaled sharply and answered. "Hello. Has Daniel left?" Margaret's voice was clipped, precise. "Yes," Rachel said cautiously. "This morning." "I see," Margaret replied, her tone oddly flat. "Let me know if he contacts you. There's something we need to finalize." Rachel's brow furrowed. "What do you mean? Is something wrong?" "Nothing for you to worry about," Margaret said coolly. A pause. "How's Lila?" "She's fine," Rachel replied. "Why?" Margaret's voice dropped. "Children see more than we think. They always do." Click. Rachel stood frozen, the dial tone buzzing like a wasp in her ear. Her hands trembled as she hung up. She turned. Lila was in the hallway, eyes wide. "Mommy, I don't want to sleep in my room tonight." Rachel knelt, smoothing Lila's hair. "Why not, sweetheart?" Lila leaned close, whispering, "Because Daddy and Grandma are planning something bad. I think they want to hurt you." Rachel's breath caught. She wanted to laugh it off, to say, "That's silly." But Lila's gaze, calm, certain, wasn't a child's game. "Where did you hear that?" "I told you," Lila said solemnly. "In the study. They thought I wasn't listening." Rachel pulled her close, heart hammering. Her husband was hiding something. And her daughter, sweet, bright Lila, might be the only one truly awake. Rachel couldn't sleep. Past 1 a.m., the house was too quiet, an unnatural hush, as if the walls held their breath. Lila slept curled on Rachel's bed, clutching her stuffed rabbit, whimpering softly in her dreams. Rachel sat at the bed's edge, staring at her phone, rereading Daniel's last text. "Coming back early tomorrow. We need to talk. Something important." The words sank like stones in her chest. Talk? About what? Her gaze drifted to the desk, where her mother's photo sat beside an old leather diary. Rachel hadn't touched it since the funeral. Grief had kept it sealed. But now, an urge pulled her forward. She picked it up, hands trembling as she turned the pages. The faint scent of jasmine, her mother's perfume, clung to them. Each entry was neat, deliberate, like her mother's life. Then, halfway through, a shaky note stopped her cold. "Richard came to me about a business deal. I looked into it. Something's off. The numbers don't add up. I'm worried about D." Rachel's blood froze. Daniel. Her mother had suspected something. She closed the diary slowly, heart racing. Could her mother's sudden death have been more than fate? Had she been silenced? A creak sounded downstairs. Rachel froze. Just the house settling, she told herself. But every noise now felt like a scream. She crept to the study, Lila's words echoing. He was looking at house drawings. "I saw escape route." She turned the doorknob. Unlocked. Odd. Daniel always locked it. Inside, the study was pristine. Daniel's desk, usually a mess, was bare. Too clean. She opened drawers. Empty. Empty. Until the bottom one. It groaned open. Inside, a manila folder labeled Life Insurance, R. Carter. Rachel stared, hands shaking as she pulled it out. The first document was a high-value policy. Insured, Rachel Carter. Beneficiary, Daniel Carter. Dated, March 3rd, 7 days after her mother's death. Rachel stumbled back, air punched from her lungs. Her mouth went dry. A scream formed, but stayed trapped. She clutched the folder and backed out. As she turned, she glimpsed a shadow outside the front window, a blur in the dark. Her pulse spiked. She slipped into the hallway, back to the bedroom. Lila stirred. "Mommy," she whispered. Rachel pressed a finger to her lips. "Shh, sleep, baby." But Lila shook her head, awake now. "He's here, isn't he?" Rachel didn't answer. She peered through a curtain slit. A man in a black coat stood in the yard. Not Daniel. Taller. Leaner. Talking on a phone, scanning the house. Rachel stepped back, heart pounding. "Mommy," Lila said. "We need to go soon." "What do you mean?" "There's no time," Lila whispered, her calm chilling Rachel's skin. "They'll lock the house. Like in my dream." Rachel knelt before her daughter.
"Who told you that?"
Lila blinked. "Grandma." Rachel's world tilted. "My mom." Lila nodded. "She said there's a way out. We have to find it first." Rachel sat stunned. Logic screamed to dismiss it. But something deeper, primal, knew Lila wasn't imagining. She was remembering. And whatever this was, it was only the beginning. Rachel hadn't slept. She sat in the kitchen, clutching cold coffee, eyes fixed on the pantry door. Every creak upstairs, every rustle outside, set her nerves alight. Lila sat across, spooning cereal but not eating, her gaze drifting to the window. Her hands were clenched in her lap. Rachel had always trusted reason, facts, proof. But nothing felt reasonable now. The man in the black coat. The insurance policy. Daniel's cryptic text. Lila's warnings of danger. And now, silence. Too still. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Rachel." Daniel's voice, low and flat. "I'm coming home early. Be ready to talk. We need to settle things."
Click.
No goodbye. Just a veiled threat in the shape of words. Rachel looked at Lila. "Sweetheart, pack your backpack. Just a few things, your bunny, some socks. We might visit Aunt Naomi today." Lila didn't ask why. She nodded, her movements quick, practiced, as if she'd been waiting. Rachel hurried to her office, stuffing the insurance papers, her mother's diary, and passports into a bag. She grabbed cash and her mother's locket, a keepsake from her lean years as a single mother. She returned to the kitchen just as the front door clicked softly. Rachel froze. Lila ran in, panic on her face. "Mommy, he's here." Rachel grabbed her hand. "Back door."
"Now."
But the knob wouldn't turn.
"Locked."
From the outside, a low hum vibrated through the walls. Lila whispered, "It's starting." Rachel turned as metal shutters descended over the windows, sealing them in with a cold hiss. "Mommy, the fire's coming." The words didn't register until the smell hit. Gasoline, faint, then sharp. Rachel backed away, heart racing. "Rachel." Daniel's voice echoed from the hall.
"Smooth. Too calm."
"I just want to talk." Lila's grip tightened. Rachel pulled her to the pantry. "Where is it?" she hissed. Lila pointed. "Behind the bottom shelf." Rachel yanked it aside. A faint crack in the wall. Her hands shook as she found a cold latch and pulled. A panel slid open with a groan. Darkness beckoned. "Go," Rachel whispered. Lila crawled in. Rachel followed, shutting the panel as Daniel's footsteps reached the kitchen. She held her breath, the air thick with dust and old wood. Ahead, Lila crawled confidently, lit by her butterfly-shaped toy flashlight. From the other side, Daniel's voice drifted. "I made this house perfect for us. I gave you everything." Then a whoosh. Smoke. Rachel coughed, stifling the sound. Lila turned, her face calm in the light. "We'll make it, Mommy. Grandma told me." Rachel blinked through tears. "You're sure?" Lila nodded, and Rachel believed her. In that moment, nothing felt truer than her daughter's certainty and the fire closing in. The passage was colder than Rachel expected. As the panel closed, the fire's roar dulled but lingered, a beast behind the wall. Smoke seeped through cracks, curling like ghostly fingers. Rachel braced against the dirt wall, steadying herself. The tunnel was narrow, cobwebs brushing her face, the stench of mildew mixing with smoke. Lila crawled ahead, fearless, as if she knew the path by heart. "Lila," Rachel rasped, choking. "Slow down. Stay close." "I'm okay," Lila called, her voice strained but steady. "We're almost at the stairs." Grandma said the door leads to the shed. Rachel's eyes stung. "What door?" "You'll see," Lila said. "It's behind shelves. A secret. She showed me in a dream." The tunnel sloped down, then turned right. Lila's flashlight flickered, revealing a wooden door ahead. "There," Lila pointed. Rachel surged forward, adrenaline numbing her scraped knees. She pushed the door. It didn't move. "Help me," she said, and Lila added her small hands. Together, they shoved. The door creaked open with a splintering groan. Fresh air hit them, cool, clean, a lifeline. Rachel gasped, lungs burning. They emerged into a chamber beneath the garden shed. Rickety steps led to a hatch above. Rachel scooped Lila up and climbed, the wood groaning under her weight. She twisted the latch hard. The hatch flew open. Morning light flooded in. They stumbled out into the backyard as the house behind them roared, a deafening, final sound, like the earth itself split. Flames burst through shattered windows. The roof collapsed. Black smoke twisted skyward. Rachel staggered forward, clutching Lila, her lungs raw. She glanced back once, just long enough to see her home consumed.
Gone.
She didn't cry. Not yet. "Mommy," Lila whispered, face buried in Rachel's shoulder. "We made it." Rachel looked at her daughter, soot-streaked, curls damp, eyes bright with courage, and something in her broke. Not fear or grief.
Awe.
"You saved us," she whispered. Lila smiled faintly. Grandma helped. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Rachel spotted Naomi's house 2 doors down. Smoke alarms blared across the neighborhood. Curtains twitched. Neighbors emerged, phones in hand. "Let's go, honey," Rachel said, lifting Lila to Naomi's. They ran, barefoot and blackened, as a fire engine rounded the street. Rachel didn't look back again. There was nothing left to return to, only truth to face. And a fight to come. Naomi Green was pouring her second coffee when frantic knocking jolted her. She set the mug down and opened the door, freezing in horror. Rachel stood there, ash-streaked, barefoot, clutching Lila. Her blouse was torn, arms scratched, eyes wild with urgency. "My God," Naomi gasped. "Rachel, what happened?" "Let us in," Rachel choked out, stepping inside. "Call the police. Now." Naomi guided them to the couch. Lila trembled but stayed silent, clinging to her mother.
"Sit."
"I'll get water." "No." Rachel grabbed her arm. "Call 911. Daniel set the fire. He tried to kill us." Naomi blinked.
"What?"
Rachel's voice cracked as she slammed her bag on the table. "I have proof. Insurance papers. The shutters he locked us in." Naomi dialed. "Yes, emergency, fire, and police. 129, Oak Hill Drive. Arson. Attempted murder. The victims are here." Sirens were already screaming. Rachel sat, holding Lila's hand, her other hand gripping her mother's locket. Each breath fought back sobs. Every minute made it realer. Outside, the fire devoured their home. Smoke choked the sky as fire trucks lined the street. Neighbors whispered behind fences. 2 officers arrived. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Breen." "You called." Rachel stood shakily. "I'm Rachel Carter. The fire wasn't an accident. My husband, Daniel Carter, planned it. He wanted us dead." Breen's face hardened. That's serious. Got evidence. Rachel pulled out the insurance file. He took out a policy on me right after my mother died. He's the beneficiary. Breen scanned it, jaw tightening. There's more, Rachel said. My daughter heard him talking to his mother. He said it had to look like an accident. The second officer knelt by Lila. Sweetheart, what did you hear? Lila's voice was soft but clear. Daddy said once Mommy was gone, everything would be his. He looked at house plans. He talked to Grandma Margaret on a secret call. Breen looked at Rachel. Where's your husband now? He said he'd be back this morning, she said. But he wasn't supposed to be here last night. I think he was watching. There was a man in a black coat, not him. Maybe someone he hired. A detective, Sergeant Keller, took over. Rachel recounted everything. Her mother's diary, Lila's dream, the passage, the fire, the gasoline, the locked shutters. Her voice rose until she nearly shouted. He meant to kill us. Keller's hand steadied her. We'll find him, Mrs. Carter. Investigators later confirmed. Accelerants were used. Shutters were remotely triggered. Arson. Rachel sat on Naomi's couch, holding Lila, as the truth spread like wildfire through the neighborhood. Her husband hadn't just tried to erase her. He'd underestimated her strength and Lila's courage. Now it was his turn to run. By nightfall, Daniel was a fugitive. His phone was off, his car gone. He never reached his meeting. His office revealed the lie. No trip scheduled, his assistant said. He cleared his calendar. Said he was working from home. Rachel sat in Naomi's guest room, staring at Daniel's last text. We need to talk. A taunt? A confession? Or control one last time? Keller promised. We're tracking his cards, plates, cameras. He won't get far. They found him the next morning at a gas station near Hartford. A clerk recognized him from the news. His suit was wrinkled, face unshaven. In his trunk, burner phones, a duffel of cash, 2 fake IDs as David Palmer. When officers cuffed him, Daniel smirked. This is a mistake. My wife's unstable. She made it up. But in interrogation, his confidence cracked. Rachel watched through the glass, hands cold, face set. Daniel talked fast, sweat beading. She was paranoid, he said. Since her mother died, she's been unhinged. She planted those papers. Then why flee with fake IDs and 50 grand? Keller asked. Daniel faltered. I was scared. My mother, she said if Rachel took everything, we'd lose it all. She was helping. That broke the dam. Margaret was arrested that afternoon at her pristine estate. She answered the door in pearls, expression icy. This is absurd, she laughed. My son's the victim. But evidence mounted. Phone records. Bank transfers. A recorded call where Daniel said to Margaret, if Rachel's gone, it's clean. Just make it look accidental. Rachel listened to it in silence, her heart a stone. Can I testify? She asked. Yes, Keller said softly. You'll have your day. But Lila struck first. Speaking to a child advocate, she recounted calmly. Daddy's call with Grandma, his talk of perfect plans, her dream of her grandmother whispering, go to the pantry when the fire starts. That dream saved them. She knew, Rachel whispered. My mother saw through him. She couldn't prove it alive, but she did after. Daniel's defense crumbled. He blamed Margaret, then stress, then work. Nothing held. When Margaret learned Daniel had turned on her, claiming she masterminded it, her facade shattered. That ungrateful boy, she hissed. I gave him everything. All for his success. And Rachel? Keller asked. She didn't belong, Margaret snapped. She wasn't us. Even if it meant killing her? Margaret's silence screamed louder than words. Outside the station, Rachel stood with Lila under a gray sky. The nightmare wasn't over, but truth was rising. Justice was no longer a whisper. It was roaring. 3 months later, the courtroom hummed. Reporters scribbled. Spectators whispered. The case wasn't famous for glamour but for horror, a man plotting to kill his wife and child for money, with his mother's help. Rachel took the stand in a navy blazer, hands clasped tightly. Lila colored nearby with a counselor. Rachel's voice, though soft, held steady as she recounted the fire, the policy, the shutters, the passage. "I thought he loved us," she said. "But he wanted control. Money." Daniel sat shackled, pale, staring ahead, not at her, not at Lila. The prosecution played the recordings, Daniel and Margaret plotting accidents. The jury's faces turned grim. Margaret refused to testify, sitting rigid, lips sealed. Then Lila took the stand. The room stilled as she climbed up, blue dress neat, braids swinging, rabbit in her lap. "Why are you here?" the prosecutor asked gently. "To tell the truth," Lila said. "What did your daddy say on the phone?" Her eyes met the jury's. "He said if Mommy was gone, everything would be his. It had to look like an accident." Gasps rippled. Daniel flinched. "Who told you about the passage?" Lila's voice was clear. "My grandma, Mommy's mommy. In a dream. She said go to the pantry when the fire started. So I did." The jury didn't stir for mysticism, but for the bravery of a 6-year-old who saved her mother. When court adjourned, no one looked at Daniel. Not even Margaret. The verdict came swiftly.
Guilty.
Daniel got 15 years for attempted murder, arson, fraud. Margaret got 8 for conspiracy. Neither apologized. Rachel didn't need them to. Outside, she faced cameras but spoke only to Lila. "You were braver than anyone in there." Lila squeezed her hand. "Grandma helped." Rachel looked skyward. Maybe she did. 6 months later, snow fell softly. In their modest yellow house in Maple Grove, flakes blanketed the yard, muffling the world in peace. Rachel stood at the kitchen window, tea warming her hands, watching Lila romp outside in a green coat, cheeks pink. Her laughter floated through the glass, a sound Rachel once feared she'd lose. The nightmare lingered in sleepless nights, in the phantom scent of smoke. But here, far from Oak Hill Drive's ashes, they'd rebuilt. They weren't alone. Dr. Ethan Brooks, once Lila's counselor, now a quiet presence, sat at the table, helping Lila with her art project. "Show me again, kiddo," Ethan said, smiling. Lila held up a crayon drawing, 3 women holding hands. One was Lila, one Rachel. The third had silver hair and kind eyes. "This is Grandma," Lila said. "The one who saved us." Rachel's throat tightened. Titled Reverse Dream, the drawing mirrored the foundation she'd launched with her mother's inheritance, a nonprofit for young female artists, honoring her mother's love of creativity. That night, by the fireplace, they shared a simple meal. Lila curled up with Coco and her bunny, content. "Mommy," she said suddenly, "what's a real family?" Rachel paused, glancing at Ethan, who offered a gentle nod. "It's not just blood," she said. "It's who stays, who protects you, who chooses you every day." Lila nodded, then looked at Ethan. "Can Ethan be family too?" The room stilled. Rachel's cheeks warmed. Ethan leaned in. "That's something we'll figure out together when we're ready." Lila smiled. "Okay." Later, Rachel stepped onto the porch. Snow had stopped, stars sharp above the trees. She held her mother's locket. "I didn't hear your warning in time," she whispered. "But Lila did. You found a way." Ethan joined her, standing close. "You okay?" For the first time, she said, "Yes." No more fire. No more lies. Just wind through bare branches and the certainty they'd survived. Inside, Lila slept safely. Outside, under snow, a new life waited. This story's heart is resilience. Family is built on love and choice, not control or blood. It reminds us that strength grows from hardship and legacy lives through those we inspire. Rachel and Lila's survival honors the past while embracing the future, a truth that speaks to anyone reflecting on life's chapters. If this story touched you, join us for more tales of courage and hope. Subscribe to our channel. We'd love to share the journey with you.